All right, well, let's get started here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. My name is Sean Brown. I am the CEO of YCharts, and I am joined today by the incomparable luminary, Samantha Russell, the Chief Evangelist at FMG Suite. And we're here to talk about 4 great ways to convert your prospects to clients. A couple housekeeping items before we get going. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to submit those in the Q&A section, and we will either get you a digital answer or Sam and I will try to address. Number 2, please keep in mind that the content of this webinar is intended for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be investment advice, and neither YCharts nor FMG Suite are acting as advising parties regarding client funds in any way, shape, or form. And then the last thing is you can find a recording of the webinar on the YCharts site under support topics, and a copy will be emailed to all attendees. So let's dive in here. First thing I'd say is, Sam, I was at a trade show a few weeks ago with Michael Kitsis, where Michael mentioned that a great advisor retains 97% of their customers. And he also cited the fact that a not so great advisor retains 93% of their customers. This led me to the understanding that once an advisor has a client, they're going to keep that client for a long, long, long time. And hopefully it's at least 97% retention. But I guess this gives context to, you and I both believe that advisors have areas to improve on getting a prospect and getting new customers. So, hello, Sam.
Hello. Thank you for that very, very kind introduction. I feel like I just need you to introduce me before every presentation I give, because that was like a nice little, good bout of confidence. But yeah, so glad to be here. Hello to everybody. I see some familiar names that I know as well. And actually, while everybody's thinking about mulling over what you just shared, I think we wanted to launch a poll really quickly just to get a flavor of where everybody joining us today is at. So what we want to know is, how many prospects have you actually converted through digital outreach in the last year? So you see, we've sort of bucketed them 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or 16 or more. And Sean, you and I are not allowed to vote, so we can't skew the results. But give us your answer and let us know. We'll put up there for a couple minutes, and this will just sort of help us get a benchmark. I think if we would ask these questions pre-pandemic, we'd get one set of answers versus asking them now. And the reason that we wanted to pick this topic and talk with you all about it today is because we are really in the age of the digital referral shift, right? So yes, people are still getting new clients from referrals, but the way those referrals happen today has shifted very much, and so much of that process now happens digitally. And so if there's one part of this funnel that you're not executing correctly, you can have a leaky funnel and people can be falling out. And so we want to help you get that funnel to be nice and clean from top to bottom. And so that's really the 4 elements we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and as Sam mentioned, how are you going to make your clients your best referral source? How are you going to harness the power of email? How are you going to create and send timely, relevant content? And how are you going to convert them when they actually end up where you want them to end up, which is on your website? So you ready to dive in, Sam?
I am. So let's see the results of that poll if we can. We can end it. I don't know if it'll be visible for everybody. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So 0 to 5, 80% of people, 0 to 5. So, obviously that is a range, but that is very typical of what I hear from all of the advisors we work with on their marketing, that converting people digitally continues to be a challenge for them. They could have a pretty robust pipeline, but it can be a real challenge to convert those people to actual clients. And I don't know if you're hearing similar things, Sean.
Yeah, I am. And the interesting thing about 0 to 5 is if we said you're retaining 97% of your customers, let's call that 95 out of your 100 accounts remain with you. You're basically, if 0 to 5 is your number, you're barely keeping afloat on new clients through a digital medium, keeping track of all of them. So I think I probably speak on behalf of everybody. Numbers well north of 5, if you had 100 accounts, are much better numbers and show a growing practice.
Agreed. All right. So let's start with this, making your clients your own best referral source. I love this quote. When you say it, it's marketing, but when your client says it, it's social proof. And this is so true. We go to websites of businesses or services. Maybe you're going to book a hotel. Sean and I were just talking about Positano in Italy, and both of our favorite places we've ever been. I'm planning to go back for my 10-year wedding anniversary. I was looking at hotels there the other day. We might try something new. And, I can go to the hotel's website and read everything they say about why their hotel is the hotel I should book. But if I go and I read the reviews on TripAdvisor or Google, I'm going to believe what other customers who've stayed there have to say much more than what the hotel has to say itself, right? We want that objective information. So keep this in mind when you're thinking about your marketing. So on the next slide, I was just talking about this, but the digital referral shift, this is really what it looks like in action today. We want our clients to, be our best referral source, but we all have busy lives. We're not all thinking about how can I help spread the word about some business all the time. It usually isn't until someone asks us for our opinion that we give it. So that the model that we used to want and hope, we'd have people in their email say, referral is the biggest vote of confidence in our business, or the best thing you can do to help me grow is to give a referral. People don't proactively just walk around the streets talking about their financial advisor. They wait until someone asks them. But the way that happens today is often, a text chain with a group of college friends or a bunch of golfing buddies that are like, oh, you know what? I really need to find somebody who can help me with my taxes and my investments. I want it all in one place. Who do you guys use? And then people will respond with their answer. So you can see here, 2 people on Facebook went to their local community groups. I'm sure many of you on the call have done this before. And they said, hey, I'm looking for an advisor. Who do you use? And in both instances, they're getting 20, 30 plus answers. And the people are linking to either the website or the social media account of the person that they're recommending, right? So this is the new way that referrals happen today. And then when somebody is going through that list of referrals, they're going to end up looking at your website, comparing it to the other people that are on that list. So let's keep on this train here. Let's look at the next page. Consumers seek out reviews when we're considering who we want to work with. And so when we think about making our clients our best source of referrals, one of the ways we can do that digitally today is through reviews, getting our clients to leave us a review. So these are just some numbers. I don't need to say this. I'm sure any of you, if you've hired a contractor, a plumber, a lawyer, bought a pair of jeans recently online, you've read the reviews. 91% of consumers regularly read reviews online.
Sam, can I ask you a quick question about that always intrigues me? We don't know all these internet strangers who have added up to 91% or 84% or 74%, but we trust them as if we know them. I do that. My wife and I over the weekend went to TripAdvisor, went to G2 Crowd, went to Rotten Tomatoes, LinkedIn, you're getting referrals. It's an amazing time where we are taking crowd input in the same way that we're taking a truly trusted friend's input. Are you seeing the same thing?
Absolutely. And I think a big part of it is just the shift in the way that we all buy. We don't necessarily want to wait for our friend to call us back to tell us, the name of somebody, or have to go and ask 5 different people and get a few different names. It's a lot easier to go onto Facebook where all of your friends are and ask there, and not only get some of your friends, but if you're in a local community group, maybe get the input of other people. Sometimes we also don't want to ask our friends for things that we feel uncomfortable about. So when it comes to finances, maybe you're one of your wealthiest friends and you don't want to ask your current friends because they're not in the same, economic place that you are. And so you don't feel like their recommendations would be a good fit for what you're looking for. So it really just, there's a lot of different reasons, but I think to your point about how we trust strangers, one other thing that a lot of research has shown is that we tend to throw out the outliers. So all the 5-star reviews where people are just raving, we're kind of like, okay. And the 1-star reviews where someone's like, nothing went right. We tend to look at the ones that are more in the middle because we see them as being more objective and truthful. So if you don't have 1 million 5-star reviews, it's okay. People are looking for that honesty and they realize that not every situation is going to be perfect. So let's just talk about this new SEC ad rule on reviews and testimonials for a minute. The first thing I want to say is that if you are trying to start getting reviews for your company, they live in some place called Google My Business. So you have to have a Google My Business account set up. You have to claim your business online in order to manage your reviews. However, if you've never set up Google My Business, but your company has a page on Google Maps, people can still leave you a review. And in fact, there's nothing that you or compliance or anybody can do to stop it. So the Investment Advisors Act of 1940 tells us that we as the advisory firm cannot be in control of the review because that's where we get into hot water where we're kind of cherry picking what we're being shown. And in this case, Google is the publisher. So there for years have been firms out there that have been getting a lot of reviews from customers or clients of theirs just naturally, organically. And that has been the case. The reason this is important is that these Google reviews directly impact your SEO as well as act as that social proof that we talked about. So leaving here today, you want to check with your home office or compliance about what their stance is on Google reviews as of right now. But even if you're not able to start proactively going out and asking clients to leave you a review, you can claim and optimize your Google My Business listing, which is kind of like getting you ready then for the next step. So I have a link there at the bottom of that screen that links to a webinar replay and a blog post that we did all about how to do that. So you can watch that next if you have more questions. But let's move on and just say with the Google reviews, if you are ready to start getting them, you want to make sure you completely fill out your Google My Business account, add at least 6 photos. So even if you work in a home office, a picture of your team, your logo, things like that will work. You can put a link in your email signature and a call to action on your website that directly takes people to leave you a review on Google. And once you start getting reviews, one of the best benefits, we've been talking a lot about social proof, you can pick the top reviews that you get and highlight them on your website as a testimonials page. And you can just pick the best ones. So let's say you have 20 reviews on Google, pick your top 3 or 5, put them on what people are saying about working with us. And then as long as you have a little button that says to see all of our reviews, head over to Google or wherever you're sending them, Yelp, that's fine to pick your top. So the compliance attorneys I've spoken with said, as long as you make it very easy for people to see all of the reviews and know where to go, it is okay just to highlight the best ones in your marketing, whether it be on your website, social media, things like that. And again, I put another link down there just to give you more info. But yeah, we can go to the next slide. The last thing I just want to say, there is a lot of legalese that goes on behind this, and we want you to be prepared and ready to go. So our team at FMG Suite and 20 over 10 put together this 5-page quick overview that you can take back to your compliance, to your home office, to your team. And it goes through the 5 things you need to know about leveraging this type of social proof and starting to get these digital referrals from your clients. So everything from setting up for Google reviews, creating testimonial pages on your website, how to collect more reviews, what to do if you get a negative review. So there's a link to download that. And I think Blair behind the scenes is going to share it as well, but we'll make sure we get it sent to everybody after the fact, because this, again, is the future. This is the way that people are going to start vetting businesses. It's just now coming to our industry. But again, think about your own buying behavior. We do it for everything else. And I don't know if any of you have seen anybody starting to do this yet in our industry. These were just some good examples of other firms out there that are already starting to share testimonials that they've gotten in social media. And this just goes such a long way, right? Getting actual commentary from the people that you're helping and using their words is a huge, huge benefit to, again, providing that objective. And, one of the other things I want to say is it's a lot easier for somebody to go and leave a Google review for you and feel like they're helping spread the word about the firm than feel like you keep asking them, do you have any friends or family that would benefit? Do you have any friends or family that would benefit? So, having them share a review once and then you can repurpose it multiple ways, it's a lot less of an ask for the client as well.
Sam, and I agree with you. The force multiplier on it is when they give you one or two names, you have the chance at one or two new customers. When they write a testimonial for you, the number is unlimited and it's permanently something you can leverage as an asset to get more customers in the door.
It's so true. So true. A question did just come in about when you are setting up Google My Business, should you use it under your name or the company name? You want to do it under whatever your company name is. So not just the advisor's name, but the company name. That would be the same as in the footer of your website. So let's say you're Russell Investments LLC. Then on Google My Business, you would set it up under Russell Investments LLC using the exact same address that is in the footer of your website. So Google can't tell that Russell Investments, they don't necessarily know where you're located. You have to tell them. So you want to make sure all that information is really consistent. And then I already sort of talked about this, but this is just an example from a company we work with, Cornerstone Wealth. If you're using FMG or 20/10, we have ready-made, pre-made templated pages. You can just click with a button and add to your website where you can upload some of your top reviews or testimonials to add them to your page, which makes it really, really easy. Another way you can do it is right under the homepage. You can have what our clients say about working with us. So there's lots of ways you can add it. But again, you just want to make sure you have that button, like you can see here, that says, go see all of our reviews, so that people can see that you're not just cherry picking, but providing a link to see all of them objectively.
Yep. And if you don't feel comfortable with the referrals and posting of the referrals for whatever reason, those aren't the only tools at your disposal. I'm personally a big believer, and I know Sam is too. We've built businesses around it. If you create good content, that content will be shared. When the content is shared, that forms an impression of who you are and what value you provide. It is a value add that brings eyeballs back to you and curiosity back to you, and somebody taking a look at if you tweeted it out, looking at your tweet streams, or if it was on LinkedIn, looking at your profile, learning more about what you do. Not necessarily that it immediately engages you in a discussion, but it just might after a short time or a couple more sends. So one of the things we see an awful lot of is people just posting content, A, because they like people to understand how their brain works and their analyses, but B, in a very utilitarian way, they know their good content's going to be shared, and they know that may lead to good things for their own businesses.
I mean, absolutely. It's one of the top ways we grew at 20/10. For the first few years, my husband was one of our co-founders, and we didn't have a big budget, and we grew by producing content that people wanted to share with their advisor friends. They'd say, hey, look at this company's got this guide about X, Y, or Z. The more hyper specific you can be too, the better. So if you work with people who are retiring from the teaching profession in Illinois and you know all about their benefits, and you can create a 5-point checklist about what you should know before you put in your retirement notice as a teacher in Illinois, that's going to be hugely beneficial, more than just 5 retirement mistakes to avoid. So the content, that's shareable is the most specific. The more specific the content, the more shareable it is with the right audience. And we have some just examples here. When you're thinking about making your client your best referral source, again, rather than them just kind of walk up to somebody and be like, hey, have you thought about using Samantha Russell as your advisor? If I work with physicians in Philadelphia and I have a client who works at a hospital and is a physician, and they have a lot of friends who are physicians, and I write some sort of piece of content that is going to be helpful to them. They're going to be more likely to share it with their friends if it's a really helpful piece. So using that as leverage is a really, really great tool as well. And speaking about content and how to share it, now we're going to talk about email.
Yeah, email. So, email is still king, and let me talk to you a little bit about that. YCharts did a study of advised individuals, almost 700 advised individuals a while back, and we heard an awful lot of interesting things about advised individuals' perceptions of the communication they were receiving from their advisor. You'll see that 64% of advised individuals felt like they heard from their advisor very infrequently. And they also said 63% said we would like to hear a lot more from our advisor for a couple reasons. Number one, it gives us more confidence in the financial plan our advisor has created for us. Number two is it puts us in a better position to recommend and refer our advisor, which is huge. We're talking about referrals in the prior section. And number three is it keeps me understanding that I'm top of mind for my advisor, which decreases my interest in considering the solicitations from other advisors. So clients want more engagement and more communication from their advisor. We're going to make this deck available as well as a recording available to everybody. But one of the things we recommend advisors do is to think about their communication in a couple dimensions. The Y dimension here is who are you communicating to? Are you broadcasting something, or are you narrowcasting something to one or a few individuals? And then the X axis written at the top where it says scheduled or ad hoc is what is your cadence? Is this something you do every week, every month, every quarter, twice a year? And to think about the communication that you have and be self-critical of, hey, am I doing a cadenced quarterly economic update? Am I doing a weekly market summary? Am I preparing myself for giving a couple key clients alerts when a stock or a fund that's important to them has moved? So long and short is we have a framework available for free for anybody who's interested in it, which says be self-critical of the way you're currently communicating and set a plan in place to communicate better. Because going back to what we've been saying so far, if you are communicating regularly, you may be having your pieces passed on to others who may become your prospective clients through time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point too, I know you're going to talk about this, but if you definitely get that communications framework, take YCharts up on it, and they have such good research that will help you just think about. So many people still do that spray and pray method when it comes to email. They're sending the same emails to everybody, when really we want the more segmented. I mean, not too segmented. You don't need 80 different segments, but a few different segments can go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was an interesting study that basically said what we all kind of know, which is email remains the channel to use. There's all kinds of other new medium that you should experiment with, et cetera. But if you want to educate your clients, likely they want to do it in an async offline mode and at their time and in some visual way in an email, especially the older clientele that you have. Now you're seeing the younger clientele say, I'm interested in text, or hey, I am going to read your post on Facebook or LinkedIn especially. But if you're looking for a tried and true method to educate and communicate with your clients, email remains a big source. I saw an interesting question, Sam. You might know the answer to it. I saw in the Q&A section. Do you know if there's a way to tell if someone forwards your email to someone else?
Yes, certain tools can show you that. And a tried and true way, no matter what tool you're using, is so most tools will now tell you how many clicks you get, right? So when we send an email normally, we have a couple links maybe to some content we wrote or a summarization of what they're going to get. when you open up any email service provider, it will tell you how many times that link in the email has been clicked. And if you see, it's not just 1, 2 clicks, but it's, 4, 5, 6, 7 clicks, that means that it's been forwarded in most situations. Now, I can't speak to all email service providers, but there are some email service providers out there that will also tell you if the email was forwarded, and you can even see when people open it. It's more common in what we call sales enablement tools than it is in marketing tools, but that's a quick way to determine is if you just see that it has been clicked on multiple times, that's usually an indication of a forward.
So a couple quick examples for you as you think about communicating better, which could lead to a better relationship with your current customer, but it also could lead to something being forwarded, which could lead to you prospecting somebody. A regular cadenced quarterly newsletter or mid-month market perspectives newsletter showed on the left. In the center, some interesting ways to just get a weekly note out about what's going on in the market this week, all the way down to the monthly one-on-one kind of perfect marketing to your current clients, which is here's how your portfolio is doing right now, and here's some key things I'm seeing. Really quick and easy ways, whether through draft once and send multiple times, or through using some automated tools to get your communications out there, which again retains clients and it gets referrals, which leads to prospects.
So on that note, what's so interesting, we did at FMG Suite a lot of analyzing of data over the last almost 2 years. And what we found is that there was a 40% open rate for emails containing timely content. So, talking about the GameStop situation, or, hey, this new CARES Act is passed, or are you a business owner? Here's what you need to know about PPP loans. So something very, very timely and relevant was getting 40% open rates, comparing that to the standard open rate of just 15 to 25% for most emails being sent. And this was looking at all of the emails being sent from, tens of thousands of advisors on our platform. The reason that this is so important is that for a long time, marketers would tell you that evergreen content was really the way to go when it came to getting the biggest bang for your buck, because you could create something once, like, what's the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA? And you could create it once and reuse it over and over again. But what we have found is that in 2020 and now 2021, timely content that is specific to current events is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. So how do you actually discover what those trending topics are, and then create compelling content and visuals that will be relevant? So we have a couple of different resources here. Sean, do you want to maybe start by talking a little bit about how you can use YCharts to discover this?
Yeah, a couple things, and then you and I can both maybe share some things you and I do to stay up on things when we're not using our tools. But YCharts, we're an investment analysis and communication tool. So we have everything from earnings calendars to economic calendars to a whole bunch of pre-canned content that we're creating for people, like white labeled quarterly economic analyses, weekly market studies, custom email alerts. So a whole lot of tools that say we think we know what advisors are trying to do on what cadence, and how can we make that really, really easy for them. What are you guys doing, Sam?
Yeah, so whether you're using FMG Suite or 20/10, there's very comprehensive content libraries, and we have put together a entire what we call relevant and timely content team that basically does nothing but just reads the news, scours the internet all week, every week, and we put out pieces that you can use as if you wrote them to communicate with your clients. So what's great about it is on the 20/10 side, the content library is completely editable. So you can pick any piece and make it seem like it's your own. You can add a video of yourself talking about it. You can change headlines. So instead of, what you should know about low interest or low mortgage rates as a first-time home buyer, you might change that to as a first-time home buyer in Dallas, Texas, right? And just adding that keyword in the header is not only going to be great from an SEO perspective, but think about when you go to share that on social media, anybody who's in Dallas who's thinking about buying a first-time home is going to be more likely to be interested in that piece because it's relevant to them. So we have that. We also have at FMG a mobile app. So you can share content that you find online. So maybe there's a piece in CNN that's really great and you're waiting in the carpool pickup. And that's when you have a minute to send it out in an email or post it to your Facebook page. You can do that from the mobile app. And then with all of our tools, you can also, whether you want to schedule it in advance or share it on the fly, you can do that and it will still go through the normal compliance channels if you're connected with a home office, or if you're an independent RIA and you can self-publish, you can do that as well. So those are the way that our tools work. But now let's also talk about people who maybe aren't even using any of our tools. Sean, what can they do?
Well, I'll tell you, I on a very, very personal level, one of the things I do for my business, which is not, we are not wealth advisors, we are a software company, but I find it valuable to put out good, interesting charts that are going to get people thinking. A, it's a free service. B, they may be curious about the company I lead. But I'm spending all of my days doing other things. I'm meeting with clients. I'm talking to staff. I am not following the markets. So how am I coming up with what's going on in the market today that I may be able to provide a unique chart or insight on? I'll tell you my quick and easy tips. I'm going to CNBC. I subscribe to a newsletter called Morning Brew, which gives me a real good summary every day of what's going on in the market. I'm checking Investopedia. I'm occasionally going to Reddit, but I stay a bit away from Reddit because that leads people down the path of GameStop and kind of the meme kind of things. But those are the kind of things I'm spending my time on that gives me in 15 minutes a really quick grounding in what's interesting and relevant in the market and allows me to leapfrog off of that and say, well, what perspective do I want to share on these things I just got myself up to speed on?
Such a good tip. Read what your clients and prospects read, basically, is the takeaway. If there, a lot of them are reading certain news sites, that's a great way. What I also suggest people do is, even if you don't want to be active on Twitter, I know a lot of you don't, Twitter is a great place to discover what other people are talking about and what's making news. And on Twitter, you can go to the trending hashtags or, discover what is recommended for you. And you will see what is really like on the pulse of news today in our country. And they usually do a good job of making it specific to the country that you're in too. It's not global. So that's a great way. On the next slide too, I just have a screenshot here for you from Google Trends. So if you've never used Google Trends before, it's a free tool that anyone can use, and it'll give you a historical snapshot over the last 3 to 5 years of how popular different search terms are. So if you go to Google Trends right now, you can even see today, what are people searching for today? And what is a trending topic? And that can be something that you take a piece of content from a library you have access to. So here on the left, you can see the 20/10 library of content. So let's say a bunch of people were talking about something happening with the Olympics that day. You can pull a piece of content from the library, add your spin on it, make it your own, and then share it out because it's a trending hot topic that is going to get more clicks and opens. I just put an example up here so you can see the way they do it in Google Trends is they show you on a scale from 0 to 100, historically over time, how popular has that search term been. So back in March of 2020, when the pandemic first started and so many people were getting furloughed and laid off, what should I do with my 401k was a huge, huge search term. And you can see it hit 100, which is the highest it can go on that interest chart. So Google Trends is a great way as well to discover topics that you might want to think about, as well as searching Twitter.
Yep. Hey, and the important thing that Sam and I are trying to stress for you guys is it's not that hard to quickly get a grasp on what's going on in markets that might be relevant. It's also really easy for you to get a perspective out there in 5 minutes, whether through the tools Sam provides for you, or create a chart through us, or do something else. The examples right up here of people taking 5 minutes. Not one of these is more than 5 minutes of, I saw something, I had a perspective, I tweeted it out, or I blasted it out in an email, And in some cases, they're creating the content themselves. In some cases, they're borrowing and forwarding. In other cases, like the one on the right is an example of somebody else created the content, but I forwarded on to my clients. Guess what? My clients sure are happy to receive that content. They don't really care that it wasn't produced with that advisor's own hands. Jordan, I don't know how to say Jordan's last name, but they don't care. It was a thing of value, and it took less than 5 minutes to get out there.
And one thing, a question that just came in that I think is really great that we should answer while we're talking about this is someone said, the problem is most advisors are intentionally trying to not be trendy. We inherently want to be vanilla. How do you build trust without attempting clickbait trends? It's such a good question. And there is a fine line between clickbaity and offering insight. So for instance, I have seen so many people stay far away from talking about anything related to crypto or Bitcoin because of the volatility, the unprovenness, all the reasons we know. Yet, if you look at what people are searching for, and even my dad, who's almost 70, asked me the other day, "So, do you have any investments in Bitcoin? Do you have anything in a wallet?" I might put a few $1,000 in and just play around with it. It's something people are talking about, and so there's a difference between avoiding the conversation completely and making sure you're a part of the conversation. So if it's popular enough that the general public is talking about it, it's something you want to be educated enough to be able to contribute to the conversation. And so having content on something, even that you completely disagree with, if you're like, I wouldn't touch Bitcoin with a 10-foot pole, being able to articulate why, what people should consider from both viewpoints, is not only, it's not being trendy or clickbait, but it's offering insight into something that your clients are talking about.
Sam, I think that's so important because a lot of advisors treat their clients in some ways as children who need to be shielded from the financial world. And I actually think the exact opposite, which is your clients are going to dinner parties. Your clients are on the sidelines of sporting events, and the conversations are coming up. And I don't think any of your clients want, when somebody brings up on the sideline of a game, what do you think about this crypto? I don't think any of them want their answer to be, I don't know, my advisor is taking care of my financial health. They want to engage in a dialogue. They want to have a perspective. That doesn't mean they want to revisit their financial plan. That doesn't mean they want to invest in crypto or GameStop. They want to be educated. They want to have an intelligent conversation. At a minimum, forward it through with the something that says, thought you might be interested in this. Let's stay the course on your business plan. I'm looking out for you, but thought you might like to understand this. That is success. That is addressing what they're really looking for, is to just be educated and smart on topics that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, going back to that earlier graph you had shared of most people feeling like their advisor doesn't communicate with them enough, right? So something to your point as simple as, I'm sure everybody in your social circles asking or talking about Bitcoin or, whatever the currency is of the moment. It's not part of our plan today, but here's some interesting insights I read over the weekend from the Wall Street Journal or what have you. It doesn't even have to be things you wrote. It can just be you sharing timely content. And that kind of an email will get forwarded to friends who have the same questions, So yeah, I think that's such a good point. Really good questions from the audience. Keep the questions coming. We love answering them.
And I think we've kind of talked to people about the things we'd be happy to help them with. Sam, anything else you want to add on this before we move on?
I don't think so. Just give us a buzz if you'd like to learn more about YCharts or FMG 20/10 and how we can help you with this timely communication. So once you've thought about how do you engage the clients you already have to make them your best referral source, and then how do you start producing content that's going to keep you top of mind, get them forwarding things to their friends, to their peers, to their colleagues, then we want to think about, okay, so they forward something, somebody reads some great content you wrote or watches a video, they're on your website. How do we actually convert them to, want to book a meeting with you? So a really sort of depressing antidote is 97% of website visitors do not convert on the first visit. Some studies say 97, some say 98. I don't think that 1% makes that big of a difference. What you should know is the majority of people are not going to book a meeting with you. And for all of you listening today, your main call to action is probably schedule a time on my calendar, right? We're not selling a product. we want people to engage with us. So how do you get the information from someone who's not yet ready to actually engage you? So one of the things, the number one most important thing, you've heard me already talk about it, is have a message that's so hyper specific for a certain group of people that they'll feel like it would be crazy for them to not take you up on your expertise. So here's an example from Drucker Wealth Management, and they talk about how they work with Google employees. So they specifically specialize in working with young tech executives at Google and Amazon. They have sections of their website dedicated to that. If you work at one of these places, of course, you're going to want to see what kind of expertise they have in helping with benefits or stock options, things like that, right? So first thing is being highly specific about who you help so that, again, people are going to feel like, well, I at least have to hear out this person. They specialize in working with people just like me. So that's tip one. Second one is on the homepage of your website, explicitly lists out who you are, what you do, and who you do that thing for. So here we have financial planning for Gen X and Gen Y physicians. There's a picture that reinforces that. That's what they specifically do. We want our website to pass what we call the 5-second test. In 5 seconds or less, somebody can tell what service we provide and for whom. And I see still thousands of websites a year that just say getting you to financial freedom, or come on this financial journey with us, or we treat you like our family. You know, it says nothing about specifically what you do. And that is a lost opportunity for conversions. Okay. So
and Sam, a real quick one. I saw an interesting statistic at a show last week that 75% of advisors say their big differentiator, and they put it on their website, is their customer service. So mathematically, that just doesn't work for 75% to be above average customer service. So go light on that and go heavy on what your true differentiator is.
Yeah, or we treat you like our family. Mm-hmm. All of those kinds of things. A really big differentiator right now, I will say, if you are providing truly integrated services where you are acting as somebody's, they're doing all their taxes, you're serving as their CPA and their financial advisor, and you can incorporate trusts and estate and all of that. There's been so many studies out there saying consumers, especially ultra high net worth, are really looking for that, and they don't understand the disconnect sometimes. So if you do offer those things, put that on your homepage, because that is a differentiator. Okay, so quickly we'll go through these, and we have a lot of questions. On your homepage, you want to have 2 calls to actions. I bet if I went and looked at everybody's site who's sitting here today, 90% or more of you will only have one, which is schedule a meeting or contact us or book a time on our calendar. You want 2, because again, most people are not yet ready to actually book a time with you. So we don't want them to leave. We want them to do something else, right? So the secondary call to action should not be as prominent. You can see here on this example from MailChimp, their pick a plan to get started button is big and bold and green. And then they kind of have this lighter button to the right. That's the secondary call to action for those who need more information. So on the next slide, you can see another example from, our own work here at 20 over 10. You can either meet with somebody from our team and chat with us, or you can get started. You can sign up and get started right away. So the primary is always going to be bolded. It's going to be the one that catches your eye. The secondary is going to be a little less prominent. We want people to go there if they're not ready to do the primary, but it's not as enticing for them to click on. Now on the next slide, you'll see what should that secondary call to action be if they're not ready to book a meeting with you. You want it to be something that is so compelling that the idea that they have to give up their email to get it is okay, right? Like for all of you listening today, a ton of you are messaging us right now saying, how can I get my hands on that SEC ad book? Because I need to know what I need to know about testimonials and reviews. It's a really compelling offer that you're willing to give your email up for. This is a great example from Retirement Matters, Dave Grant's firm, and he works with Illinois teachers. So he has this ebook, Retiring as an Illinois Teacher Has Many Components. Do you have them all covered? Bullet point lists out exactly what you're going to get if you download the ebook, and when even has a visual. The visuals also really help get our brains thinking about what we're going to get in return. Probably the most common secondary call to action I see is sign up for our newsletter. but you don't show them what they're going to get in the newsletter. How often are they going to get the newsletter? An example of a past newsletter. So most people don't fill it out, right? You want to show them what they're going to get and what they can expect to learn if they give up their email to you. And then the last tip about calls to actions is keep it really simple. Just ask for their name and email. The more form fields you have, so how old are you? How much money do you have to invest? What's your phone number? The lower conversion rate you will get. Keep it just name and email. And this is just a little statement, proof it works, a text message I had gotten from somebody who said, I had a prospect book a meeting with me through my website and my calendar link last week. Turns out he's a $10 million client, was looking for someone new to work with. He decided to look around, found me on Google. And I asked him what made him pick me, and he said the website was the best one. It felt the most personable. And this person did email me months later or weeks later to tell me that this person became a client, right? And just all from a Google search. So 93% of online experiences begin with a search engine, and leads from search engines have a 14.6% close rate versus outbound leads of 1.7%. So again, we really want these tips to be really impactful and helpful for you, and hopefully they all were. And I think that was, yes. Okay. So let's do the recap quickly while you guys keep asking your great questions.
Yeah, let me try to sum it up for you guys. The executive summary is testimonials matter. Find direct or indirect ways for testimonials. It doesn't have to be a full testimonial. It could be them forwarding an interesting piece of your content. Second one is make content, provide content. It serves you very, very well. Greenfield content is okay. Relevant and timely content is better. Email is king. It's where and how people want to be educated right now. Don't believe what you're hearing, that email is not a channel. That is where people go to for async learning. CTAs, 2 CTAs, you saw several examples. Your primary one and your secondary one. Secondary one's more subtle. Those are our 4 tips. And if Sam in FMG Suite or I at YCharts with our tools that are focused on content and communication and marketing can be of any service, we'd love to. But for now, Sam, why don't we go see if we can address some of the questions that are in our chat?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say too, if we are going to send out the replay, with a lot of people are still asking, and the slide deck, which has all of the links. So if you're looking for links, the links will be included and the clickable in the slide deck as well. If you have a question for me or Sean, please connect with us too on social media. Sometimes that's the easiest way. My LinkedIn is Samantha C. Russell, and I'd be happy to connect with you there. What's yours, Sean? Just Sean?
I'm Sean _YCharts.
Sean _YCharts. Okay, great. So one of the people, this is an anonymous attendee, said, if you don't mind me asking, Sean, what were you attending last week, the event? What was the event with Michael Kitson?
It was actually 2 weeks ago, and it was the Carson conference out in Las Vegas.
Excel, yes. All right. Somebody else asked, I'm having some issues in terms of compliance being delayed and approving content that I can use. Would you have any tips for getting compliance on board for the timely release of material? I can give a tip, and then maybe Sean, if you have anything else. The first thing is, if you're using, tools that are baked into their workflow, it's going to be easier. So we find, obviously at FMG and 20/10, that the compliance teams that have direct access to our portal where they're submitted and then they can review them right on the spot, or they can bulk review. So if we say, hey, we just wrote this new piece on the CARES Act, you can make it available to all your advisors to use as is right now. They can review it once, make it available for everybody. So that's a lot easier. If it's your own content, that you're putting together, I think, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil, just being that kind of person that's going to nag them and to let them know that, hey, this isn't going to change. I'm going to continue to have a lot of content that I put out because I know this is the way I want to grow my business. But you can make it easier on them and bulk batch your content. So if you're going to create blog posts for the month, maybe once a week, send them all 4 at once for next month so they can review them all in one big batch. Those are all some of my best tips.
Yeah. What we haven't seen work is just prayer and hope. So get to know your compliance group, understand their constraints. Don't put them under the gun to get something out the door tomorrow. If you recognize that their more natural cadence is a week or two, and obviously a week or two says, well, how fresh is my content? If it's a week or two old, it's still fresh. Your content's nothing's changing so quickly that, when the 10-20 yield curve inversion happens, it's going to stay that way for a while. So fresh content can be a couple weeks old. And other thing I have noticed is the top producers in businesses tend to get a much more expedited timeline for compliance than others. And maybe that's a little secret within a bunch of firms, but if you're producing well and tend to do the right things, the workflow queue with compliance tends to go quicker.
Another great question from Kevin saying his advisors are super skittish about asking for Google My Business reviews because they're scared to get a bad review. Has anyone else dealt with that, or what do you suggest? The first thing, I think the reason that people are afraid of that is because of the idea that typically we're more likely to leave a review if we have a bad experience than if we have a good one. So I do understand the concern for that. And this is where, again, you don't want to put in writing to just a couple clients asking them for reviews. But if you're having a meeting with a client, you can say to them, hey, our industry is finally changing and we're now finally allowed to get Google reviews. Would you mind just Googling, Russell Wealth and leaving me a review? You can say that verbally to one person in a meeting, and that is going to be fine. You just don't want to put that in writing to that one person. So you could collect a few that way and then do a campaign to everyone, making it as easy as possible. So, also like tying it to something. We're all humans, deal a lot on reciprocity. So if you do something nice for somebody and then you're asking them to do something for you that feels like a favor, they're more likely to do it at that point. So if you're somebody who follows like surge meetings, right? So the idea that like you have a fourth of all of your clients that you do meetings all at once a quarter, right after those meetings, that might be a good time to ask for reviews because you just went and spent a lot of time with them. You went over everything with them. So asking at the right time is also helpful. Also though, if you're really that worried about negative reviews, then that might be more of a client service problem than it is anything else, and something that, needs to be addressed at a higher level than marketing and more about what the client experience is. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I don't, Sam. Great answer.
Okay. Let's just see. Some of the questions were answered by our team. If you have any other ones, please let us know. And somebody asked if there was an email template available for asking for reviews or referrals. Blair shared one on the back end, but we'll put that in the correspondence. We have a little template that we put together that you can use. That's really easy. That hopefully will help. But so I think we're almost up on time. I think we got to all the big questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And again, hopefully you found this really helpful. If you need anything else, you know how to reach us, hopefully, and we will send all of the follow-up materials to you.
And Sam, thank you. Always awesome gaining your perspectives and all of us learning how we can be better marketers and better prospectors. So thank you. And thank you, everybody who attended.
Thanks, everyone.